Now I've been trying to figure out the best way to describe the sound of this speaker, the PureAudioProject Duet 15 Horn 1. And the word is reality. It crosses, the sound has this realism, this reality to the event of recorded music, and it just brings it into your listening room. That's what it does. Now, the thing for me is, though, and this is, by the way, part 2 of this review, and I urge you to check out part 1 where I interview the designer, Zev Schlick. Anyway, there's a lot of information in part 1, and that's why I'm just getting right into the sound of the speaker and not all the usual description of the speaker. That can be found in part 1. Now, I've been living with the Duet 15 with the Voxative driver, with the 8-inch AC 1.6 driver. Now, that is an open baffle speaker, and I've been living with it for going on 3 years. So I know that sound well. And this one, with the horn, is really different, more different than I expected. Using the word different, not better. They are very different sounding speakers. And I think it's nice to have that choice. And by the way, they are both exactly the same price. So it's not like you got to pay more. No, same price for both. But anyway, and I will discuss the difference in the sound of these two speakers later on in this review. But right now I'm just going to focus on the sound of the Horn 1. Now, as for setup, I would say these speakers definitely need to be 3 feet out from the wall, towed in to your listening position. Towing in is very subjective, very personal taste thing, but you should experiment with tow in. And of course the distance the speakers are from each other. They do present a beautiful soundstage. It is a very open sounding system, especially considering its horns. But in any case, they project a large soundstage with pretty good specificity. Now, since it does have a 15-inch woofer, yes, it does make bass. But it isn't the most, let's say, impactful bass. No, it's not going to do that. But what the bass does is it's very quick and nimble, so you hear more detail in the bass. Oh, and as for comparisons, sure, I compared it with the Voxative Duet. Yes, I did. But I also compared it with one of my other references, the Klipsch OJAS KOR1. Now, that's obviously a horn speaker. And that one has a 12-inch woofer. So that was an interesting comparison. So that it all fleshes out my impressions of what exactly the Horn 1 is bringing to the music. Now, I was really lucky that the first piece of music I played over the Horn 1 was the Bob Dylan Basement tapes. It's part of the bootleg series. So this is like 5 or 6 CDs of Bob making music that was not actually being recorded to make an album. No, the music was recorded as demos. So they weren't in a studio. They didn't have the pressures of time or anything like that. And Bob Dylan was working with the band. And this was in 1967, the summer of 1967. A lot of it was recorded in Bob Dylan's house in Woodstock, New York, and the band, the group, lived nearby. So this was this collaboration between Dylan and the band. But what I love about this record, and why it was so important to hear it over the Horn 1, was the way Bob Dylan was singing. He was singing more out, more a whole thing rather than the neck up kind of thing. It's more soulful Bob. He's just really wailing on this recording. And I just love it for that. And the way it leapt out of the speaker was really remarkable. Like he was right there. Yeah, the soulful Bob Dylan. And it sounds like they're having fun. Now, it just so happens that the amplifier that I'm using at this point was the Dynaco Stereo 70. This is a restored amplifier. I believe it was made in 1965, so it's 60 years old. And it is so good. And it was a beautiful match with the Horn 1. Now, I also used, just for fun, a little tiny bit, I did use the Deckware Zen Trio. This little tiny amplifier, 2 watts per channel, a very tube sounding amplifier, and it was gorgeous. And these are very high sensitivity speakers. It's 96 dB, 8 ohms, really easy load. And with the deckware, now obviously it's not going to play crazy loud, it's not going to have pounding bass, it's not going to do those things, but in terms of mid-range beauty, oh yeah, the deckware could definitely do it. And if you have a smallish room and you never listen loud, then very low powered amplifiers can really do beautiful things with this speaker. But also, to bring it back to a known reference, I use the Past Labs XA25 solid state amplifier. And that was probably 80% of my listening time was with the Past Labs. I'm a big Tom Waits fan. Definitely. I love Tom Waits. And his album Mule Variations is, well, the top of the pile for me, and it's also a great sounding recording. First of all, Tom's voice is in really good shape. It's deep. He's got that gruff voice, very, very powerful. Like, he doesn't need a microphone. He can just project. Wow. But it's very atmospheric, a lot of quiet details. And there's like, on one track, there's a rooster crowing outside, and it is actually a rooster. It's not a sound effect that they added in post-production. I believe that's true. Anyway, it sounds cool. And what I'm getting over the Horn 1 is just transparency of just hearing everything really, really fast. Transient response of percussion and the guitar, the electric guitar, the roughness of the guitar. This speaker is not holding anything back. And yes, and the bass is so quick and nimble. You just hear details in the bottom end. You don't feel power, but you do feel that energy. Yeah. Now, I did run some tones through it, and I was getting bass down to the low 40 hertz range. So that's probably enough for most people. Of course, some people want to add subs, and if that's your thing, add a sub. That's not the way I do these things. I just want to hear the speaker, not speaker plus subwoofer. But that's a personal choice on my part. You know, one of the things I love about this speaker is the way you can push it in terms of volume. As you're turning up the volume, there's no sense of increased strain. It's working hard to deliver. No, it just keeps giving you more and more and more. And that's really cool. But at the other end of the loudness scale, you can play it very quietly, like late night levels, 40 dB range, no problem, and not be frustrated. Oh, if I could only play it louder. No, this one handles low volume really, really well. I didn't mention this earlier, but I also had on hand a great tube amplifier from Lab 12. It's called the Suano. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a single-ended KT150 amp. It puts out 25 watts a channel. And it's not tubey sounding. It's hyper clear sounding and spatial and dimensional. And it was really beautiful. It did transform the sound of the speaker. Even compared to the Past Labs, it was more resolute. It just had more detail and more of that sense that I could hear into the music more with the Suano on the system, or with the Horn 1s. It's really cool the way every time you make a change in the system, this speaker will let you hear it, big time. And then I wanted to do the comparison between the Klipsch OJAS speaker, the KOR1, and the Horn 1. And I was using this recording by John Faddis. This is a Chesky session. I worked at this session. And it's a big band, lots of brass instruments, percussion, piano, bass, drums, and there's incredible dynamic range on this record, but a lot of subtle playing as well. And I'm going back and forth between the Horn 1 and the KOR1. The Horn 1 got that leading edge of the brass instruments and the drums better. It was more right there, again, right there, and the KOR1 was more laid back. Yeah, it definitely was a more, let's say, coherent sound, not as forward, not as lively. It wasn't as bright. It was more laid back, and the blend between the horn and the 12-inch driver on the Klipsch OJAS speaker, that blend was really, really nice. And by comparison, the Horn 1, the blend between the horn and the 15-inch open baffle, it wasn't as smooth. I could hear them more distinctly as separate entities. I mean, it was still pretty good, but it was smoother with the Klipsch OJAS speaker. Moving right along, I was going to compare the Duet 15 with the Duet 15 Horn 1. And for the music, I chose the band Love, Forever Changes is the album. I love this album. I think it's a freaking masterpiece. It's also 1967. It's right up there for me with Sgt. Pepper and Pet Sounds. I mean, it's that big a deal. So it's a rock band, Love, but with strings and with brass. And that isn't always the best idea, but in this case, it just enlarges the scope of the music. It's beautifully played. It's a phenomenal recording. It is recorded in a studio, of course. But I love this music, and I love the sound of this music. And when I was doing these comparisons between the Duet 15 and the Horn 1, again, the Horn 1 just made it sound more like live music, as in a live concert. And the standard Duet 15, it just had more soul to it, more body. And when I was switched over to the Horn 1, it was more like live. It was more awake sounding. I think the Duet 15 just has more coherence to it between the voxative and the 15-inch driver. And that's why it's been my ongoing reference for, as I said, going on 3 years. Now, during the interview with Zev, he mentioned that the Horn 1 has an adjustable crossover. Let's put it that way, yes. You can use it in one of two ways, or you can set it up in one of two ways, with series topology or parallel topology. Now, most crossovers in most speakers nowadays use parallel topology. I can't explain it. You can look it up on the internet. But anyway, you can hear the difference. The difference is not subtle. And on this speaker, it's very easy to change from parallel to series. It's just moving a jumper between two positions. It literally can take 2 seconds to do. So it's very easy to do, and you can hear the difference and decide for yourself. But I will describe what I heard. When I was listening with parallel topology, I thought the sound was, again, lively, fast, and clear, all those things, and very, very detailed, transparent, all that good stuff. But when you move over to the series topology, it sounds more laid back, softer, not as clear, but maybe more, it holds together more as the horn and the woofer. That's true, and I definitely heard that, but somehow I kept going back to parallel. But anyway, I bring it up because it's nice to have those options, or those two options, determining the sound of this speaker. And as for amplifiers, you know what? I think that the Lab 12 Suano amplifier was the best sounding amp. I really like the past labs, but in the end, it really was the Dynaco Stereo 70, the one that really warmed my heart. It is the tubiest of all the amplifiers I used, and I like that balance. But, you know, all these things are highly subjective. Now, as for the differences between the Duet 15 and the Horn 1 on mid-range, I had no problems when I just listened to the Horn 1 with voices, male and female voices. It sounded really good, really clear right there. But when I switched over to the voxative, they just sounded more, they had more of a body attached to them than I heard with the Horn 1. So, different. And yes, I did try listening with the series connection when I was doing these tests for mid-range, and I still preferred the sound of the voxative Duet 15. Now, I should explain that over the course of a review, I do all these comparisons, but I spend the bulk of my time listening just to the product I'm reviewing. It's real. I just want to let it sink in. This going back and forth, it's helpful, it illuminates points, but I just want to sit and listen to this speaker without thinking about changing things all the time. And to do that for this review, I listened to Kronos in Africa. Kronos, the string quartet in Africa with African percussion and African singers. It's a gorgeous recording. There's something about this music. I could just sink into it, though I've played it many hundreds of times, the CD. It never gets old. And with the horn one, I felt like I was more there with the string players, with the singers, with the percussionists, and I felt this connection to the music. That's what I got with the horn one, which is a perfect lead into, so Steve, what do you really think of the PureAudioProject Duet 15 Horn 1? I think it's a really interesting speaker. Interesting because I'm so used to the PureAudioProject sound, but hearing it in this different way with the horn. A lot of things I like about the horn, and a lot of things that I prefer with the voxative version of the speaker. And there's no right or wrong answers here. It's just which way you're going. I like that the voxative is laid back. I like both, but for different reasons. So anyway, that's where it's at. And now we will move right on to, you know it, you absolutely love it, the Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. Alberto sent in these beautiful pictures. He lives in Torino, Italy. His streamer is a Blue Sound Node. The DAC is an XLAN. It's an Audio GD DA7, which is an R2R DAC. The passive preamp is a Kosomo, and he's using that as a remote volume control. The preamp itself is made by Desanayake. It is a custom-made line-only 2 preamp with a separate power supply. Power amp is a First Watt SIT3. Speakers are Klipsch La Scala AL5, and interconnect cables are Cardus Golden Reference. Speaker cables Moro Audio SP4, and there's a power plant isolation transformer in there by XLAN. Thank you, Alberto. Okay, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg. I am the Audiophiliac. You've lasted this long in this video, so apparently you like it. And I want to let you know, if you've missed this before, that I am making exclusive videos just for my patrons that you can only see there. They're not shown here on YouTube, ever. So, if that piques your interest, you might want to consider subscribing to my Patreon. You can do so for a few bucks a month, up to, yes, $50 or $100 a month. And at the top 2 tiers, you and I will have a one-on-one conversation every month, usually at the beginning of the month. So yeah, think about that. Or just subscribe to this channel. That's cool too, if you have yet to subscribe, and give it a thumbs up if you think I deserve it. And with that, I can say my work here is, yes, at last complete. Thank you again for watching, and I do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.